Good morning, class. Today we're going to find context clues. Today, our objective is that I can find the meaning of words or phrases by using context clues in a text. We're going to practice a skill most of you have already been using throughout your life. Finding the definition of a word or phrase by using context clues. So, each of you should now open your notebook on your desk to the next blank page. Fold it hot dog set if you need to, and draw a line down the middle. I'm going to give you 20 seconds to do that. Ten seconds left. You should be folding your notebook page down and drawing a line down the middle. In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, bring it back. Okay. On the left side of the page, you're going to write July 28th, 2014, today's date. On the right side, you'll write the objective for today. I can find the meaning of words by using context clues right here. I'm going to give you another 10 seconds to copy that down. Remember that if you feel like you're running out of time at any point during this PowerPoint, you can pause it before continuing. Now, what do context clues look like? First, we need to remember that the context of something is what it's surrounded by. So, what does the word context mean? If you saw an adult wearing a SciTech t-shirt walking down the hallway, what would you think? Here's this sleeper wearing a SciTech t-shirt. You'd probably think that they work here. The t-shirt and the hallway work as context clues for you. They're what she's surrounded by. Now, there are 4 big types of context clues that we should know about. The first 2 kinds are synonyms and antonyms. A synonym is a word or phrase that means the same thing as another word or phrase. A really great example of a synonym is saying, I was happy today during English class. Or you could also be saying, I was joyful during English class. Here, happy and joyful are synonyms. So, what is a synonym? On the opposite end of the spectrum, an antonym is a word or phrase that means the opposite thing as another word or phrase. If I said, today's class was a blast, it would mean very different things than today's class was a bust. These 2 phrases, blast and bust, can be seen as antonyms. The last 2 other kinds of context clues are explanations and examples. If a clue is an explanation, it has words in it that explain what the word you're trying to define means. If a clue is an example, it will show a person or character acting out the word. To go back to the happy sentences, I could say, I was happy in class today. Or I could say, I danced around the class. When I say that, my dancing expresses my being happy. It's an example of a happy action. Now, Ms. Lieber is going to read Persephone's story out loud to you. Each of you should be following along with your finger on the paper story next to your computer. We'll be walking around to check and make sure you're following along.
Persephone grew up on Olympus, and her gay laughter rang through the brilliant halls. She was the daughter of Demeter, goddess of the harvest, and her mother loved her so dearly she could not bear to have her out of her sight. When Demeter sat on her golden throne, her daughter was always happy on her lap. When she went down to earth to look after her trees and fields, she took Persephone. Wherever Persephone danced on her light feet, flowers sprang up. She was so lovely and full of grace that even Hades, who saw so little, noticed her and fell in love with her. He wanted her for his queen, but he knew that her mother would never consent to part with her, so he decided to carry her off.
Wow. So, to refresh, when I don't know a word, I use context clues. Here are my steps. When I find a word or phrase I don't know, I'm going to write it down. So I don't know what the word consent means at the bottom of the paragraph Miss Lieber just read. It's in the last sentence of that paragraph, where it says, he wanted her for his queen, but he knew that her mother would never consent to part with her. Put your finger on the word consent. Now I should stop and use my context clues to find out. Let's make a Cornell note to find the definition of consent. For my Cornell note, in the left-hand column, I write the word I'm defining. Copy down the word consent in your left-hand column. This word right here. Now, look for words or phrases in the same sentence that you do know. If you don't know any words in the same sentence, look for words in the sentences surrounding that one. Now, in the right-hand column, I'm going to start by looking at the clues I already have in the sentence. I see that Hades knew Persephone's mother would not consent to part with her, and so he makes a decision for himself. He decided to carry her off, and I know what carry her off means. It means he took her away without asking her mother. I'm going to write those clues next to number 1 in my Cornell note. Hades decided to carry Persephone off without asking her mom to consent. Each of you should be writing that down.
When I write, you write.
Just like that. Now, I'm going to ask you to be done that in another 10 seconds. Bring it back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The second thing I'm going to do is look for words that I already know that I can replace consent with in the sentence to make it make sense to me. Here, I think it would make sense to say, Hades decided to carry Persephone off without asking her mom to agree, instead of saying, without asking her mom to consent. So, consent must mean to agree. So here in my right-hand column, I wrote down consent means to agree. Everyone should copy that down.